Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, Prime Minister Netanyahu challenges rival Benny Gantz to the first Israeli debate between candidates for Prime Minister in over 2.5 decades. The first set of Israelis on the coronavirus cruise ship off the coast of Japan gets set to return to Israel, and the family of a fallen Israeli combat pilot gets closure after 36 years. Stay tuned for the incredible story. To begin, Election Day is approaching quickly, but it's not here yet. And as the saying goes, it ain't over until it's over. The final countdown has already begun, and there are only 12 days left until the third Israeli national elections in under a year. Foreign diplomats and emissaries have already started casting their absentee ballots around the world, starting with New Zealand at 9 a.m. local time on Tuesday. Private citizens, on the other hand, must physically be in Israel on Election Day in 2 weeks' time to vote, accounting for a fair chunk, actually, of the loss in voter participation. And that also means that, of course, there's still time to possibly sway more voters, which is needed as all polls point to yet another deadlock in March. So in a bit of confidence, Prime Minister Netanyahu is now challenging his top rival Benny Gantz to a live televised debate, while speaking in an interview with Channel 20 News.
אני מזמין אותך לעימות טלוויזיוני, אהלן וסהלן. אתה מקבל?
אני, בוודאי. אולי עכשיו
יש לי הצעה, בוא נעשה כמה עימותים טלוויזיוניים. כן? כמו בארצות הברית, עושים כמה עימותים.
Now, while you might think that that's not very unusual, in Israel you'd be wrong. If held, it would be the first Israeli debate between two leading candidates for prime minister in over 24 years. The last actually being between Netanyahu and then Prime Minister Shimon Peres. And Netanyahu went on to win that year's election. Gantz, meanwhile, isn't taking the alleged bait. Instead, he's rejecting the offer to debate, calling Netanyahu's challenge spin to divert attention away from his coming corruption trial. Now, speaking of trial, Israeli Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit has some good news and some bad news for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Bad news first. We've known for weeks that the day would come eventually, but now it's finally set in stone. On March 17th at 3 p.m., just 2 weeks after the coming election, Prime Minister Netanyahu will begin trial. The premier is facing charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust across 3 separate corruption investigations, and while other Israeli leaders have been tried and found guilty in the past, this is the first time in Israel's history that a serving prime minister will take on formal criminal charges. The good news for Netanyahu, however, is that like in any other good justice system, he has the presumption of innocence, and that means that Netanyahu can still both run in the elections as well as potentially form a coalition, even under indictment. Also, Attorney General Mandelblit is reported to have informed the High Court of Justice of his opinion Tuesday night.
אני מתכוון להמשיך לשרת אתכם ואת המדינה כראש הממשלה עוד שנים רבות. אל תאמינו לכל הספינים.
Now, in spite of the controversies, conflicts, indictments, and now pending trial, Prime Minister Netanyahu is still polling as the strongest candidate for Prime Minister. In fact, a recent Midgam poll shows that 45% of Israelis prefer Netanyahu to serve as Prime Minister, over 33% who prefer rival Benny Gantz. Well, here to discuss it's his strategic advisor, Yoram Dori, and Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you both so much for being with us today.
Good to be with you.
Martin, I actually want to start with you. Why is Bibi polling so well?
Well, I think it's a combination of 2 things. First of all, it's the lack of credibility that the law enforcement has got, an increasing erosion in that credibility. And the second is the recognition of the incredible, or at least very great, accomplishments of Netanyahu. And I think those 2 things have kept Bibi high in the polls. I mean, you know, if the law enforcement agencies, and especially the judiciary, wanted to undermine their own credibility in the eyes of the public, you only have to look at the last decision of the High Court to allow the Heba Yazbak of the joint list to run after she praised terrorists, and her whole party actually denies Israel as a nation state of the Jewish people, which is a clear violation of the letter and the spirit of the law and should bar them from participation. And the High Court constantly overrides that. When Arab lists show, I'm not saying we should strip Arab citizens of their vote, but the Arab parties that run are in clear contradiction of the law, and that is increasingly eroding the effect. And people can see what's going on here is a choreographed coup with the law as the prop, just as happened in the United States.
Yoram, what's your take on this choreographed coup?
In Israel, like all over the world, you are voting against. It's an emotional voting, not a rational voting. Here in Israel, a lot of people of the public, let's say 40-45%, as you showed to us, think they are a discriminated minority, although they are in power for the last 50 years. The last time that the Prime Minister was elected by the Labour Party was in 1984, and Barak for 1 year in 1990.
Barak was elected and was ejected out of power, the shortest serving Prime Minister, and richly deserved so, because the vote for Netanyahu is extremely rational. Netanyahu has been a transformational leader, whether it's in politics, whether it's in diplomacy, whether it's economics, whether it's in security. You can look in each of those fields. Israel today is above GDP per capita of Britain, France, and Japan, which have been unthinkable just a few years ago. He brought terror down to imperceptible levels.
I can tell you that it's despite Netanyahu, not because of Netanyahu.
Yeah, for 10 years, despite of it.
Yes.
No, really.
So can you explain a little bit more about this underdog
mentality? So what is happening in Gaza is because of
I will agree
because
with
of
you.
Netanyahu. No, he's a prime minister for the last 11 years.
I'm not an uncritical apologist for Netanyahu.
He's paying protection to the Hamas.
I agree with you, but I'm surprised that the criticism comes from the left. The one area that I have, one of the two areas.
Why do you think that the left are not patriots?
Is Gaza. But that's not why they want.
Patriots no less than you.
That's got nothing to do. That's got nothing to do with why they want to displace him.
I want to move on a little bit.
The trumped-up charges.
Well, so I want to move on a little bit because a lot of this stuff can come out in a debate, in a potential debate, which, as we've discussed, has not occurred in Israel between two prime minister candidates in over 2 decades. Why would Benny Gantz not debate Netanyahu when before he called for a debate
I think
himself?
you have to ask Mr. Netanyahu, who for the last 10 years didn't want to go to a debate.
Didn't need
Ask him. I was convinced by Mr. Netanyahu that a debate is bad for Israel.
Netanyahu convinced you that debate was bad for Israel?
Yes, that's what he said for the last 10 years. He escaped from every debate. He didn't want the debate because he was leading. Now he's an underdog. He wants a debate.
But the last time he debated was actually against Shimon Peres, and he ended up winning that election. Why wouldn't he be serious about challenging for this debate?
Well, ask Mr. Sherman.
I think Netanyahu has got a good
Quick
case.
answer?
Sorry?
Quick answer, I'm sorry.
Because I think the question is why Gantz doesn't want it, and the answer is because he's not the sharpest pencil in the drawer. I think Netanyahu would maul him in a debate, and he knows it because Gantz has been apologizing for everything he said. Everything he says, something he needs a clarification of what he said.
Absolute final comments. We have to. I'm sorry, but yes.
No, I said I was convinced by Mr. Netanyahu. He convinced me for the last 10 years that a debate is bad for the democracy of Israel, it's bad for Israel. So I was convinced.
That's bad for Gantz, that's for sure.
In the meantime, Yoram, thank you so much, and Dr. Martin Sherber, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right, now, the 15 Israelis who have been stuck quarantined on a cruise ship off of the coast of Japan are now set to return to Israel on Thursday, or at least 12 of them are. It's been confirmed that at least 3 of the Israelis on board the Princess Diamond cruise ship have been infected with coronavirus, and the other 12 on the ship are not known to have contracted the disease.
כרגע הסתיימו כל ההוצאה של האזרחים מהאונייה. הם הוציאו חלק מהנוסעים, ועכשיו הם כנראה מתכוננים, אם הבנתי נכון, להוציא את כל האוסטרלים. ומי שנשאר באונייה יצא כנראה מחר או מחרתיים בעזרת השם.
Their nightmare vacation is finally ending. So far, 2 Israeli passengers have been allowed to disembark from the Diamond Princess cruise ship, where they've been quarantined for the last 2 weeks, following an outbreak of the deadly coronavirus. The release comes as hundreds have begun leaving the Diamond Princess cruise ship following 2 weeks of a much criticized quarantine. Experts have been referring to the ship as the perfect virus incubator because it's become the site of the most infections outside of China, where the virus was first identified. As of now, 542 cases have been identified among the 3,700 passengers on board, and the last of the 12 non-infected Israelis are set to disembark from the ship by 6 p.m. Japan time. Then they'll depart for Israel 3 hours after they're taken straight to a plane that will fly them home. They will, of course, first be tested to make sure they're not infected with the deadly virus.
אין לי מילים מהתרגשות, ממש ככה. אנחנו רוצים כבר להגיע לארץ. הילדים גם כן כבר מתארגנים לשבת כדי שיבשלו לנו כולם. הם כולם רוצים לבשל, להביא לנו את האוכל. אני מקווה שיתנו להם להכניס לנו את האוכל. כי אנחנו כבר לא יכולים לאכול את האוכל פה.
Here in Israel, the Magen David Adom ambulance service is prepared to receive the patients with teams of paramedics that will be wearing protective gear. So what about the 3 Israelis that were infected? Well, they're currently being hospitalized in Japan and are said to be suffering from mild symptoms of the disease. They'll eventually return home separately. So far, the coronavirus has infected over 75,000 globally and left 2,000 dead.
All right, imagine being able to land in Ben Gurion's airport and then to be automatically transported to Jerusalem's Western Wall. Well, that's exactly the goal, according to Israel's transportation ministry. Bezalel Smotrich wants to place a train station in the heart of Jerusalem's Old City that would allow tourists to directly enter the Western Wall complex from Tel Aviv. The only problem is that this plan has been at the center of controversy ever since it was first initiated. The plan would involve extending the high-speed Jerusalem-Tel Aviv train line to the Old City, which would mean that 2 underground stations would need to be constructed, and over 2 miles of tunnels beneath downtown Jerusalem and the Old City would also have to be excavated. I cannot imagine how archaeologists and historians are feeling about this. That is a very sensitive area. Of course, the project is already raising fierce opposition from religious authorities, archaeologists, and the Palestinians, and of course now also the Jordanians, because of the damage it could cause to historical Israeli landmarks. Well, in defense, the transportation minister says that building the train stop would in itself be historic, and the plan was first introduced back in 2017, and it's estimated to cost more than $700 million. If approved, it will take 4 years to complete. And now it's time to learn about some must-see places to visit here in the Holy Land, speaking of Jerusalem and other amazing locations that even Israelis don't always know about. They're brought to you by Visit to Israel, and joining us is Israeli tour guide Eliana Pasentin to tell us all about it. Eliana, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so excited to hear about what we have to learn about in store, so take us away.
Thank you for having me. So the first site I'd like to tell you about is ancient Shiloh, Israel's first capital for 369 years before Jerusalem. We're going back 3,500 years in time. Today, ancient Shiloh is an archaeological park and a national heritage site, just an hour from Jerusalem and an hour from Tel Aviv. It's right in the center of Israel, and it's a hidden gem.
So why is it a hidden gem, though? Because as you said, I mean, this is a historical landmark. This is something that has some significance even in the name to people who may not have been there. Why is it so significant?
I think, well, it's so significant because it is the first capital city, the center of the 12 tribes, and also the place of Hannah's prayer. Hannah prayed for a child. She was blessed with Samuel, who becomes a prophet, and later anoints King David, who will build Jerusalem. So it's also a place of prayer. It's an archaeological site. You can come dig for a day. In May, we're having an archaeological dig with Dr. Scott Stripling coming from the United States.
So you may even find some treasure.
You're definitely going to find treasures, and it's one of the only sites in Israel where you can actually come join the archaeologists.
That's amazing.
There's also incredible multimedia. There's a movie that you look through the windows, and the tabernacle is superimposed on the actual site, which is amazing. Augmented reality and
at its best. All right, well, unfortunately, we have to move on. What is our second location? And I understand that we're again looking in Judea and Samaria.
Yes, so 20 minutes north of Jerusalem in Kochav HaShachar is Adva Natural Soaps. It is a beautiful boutique factory for handmade soaps. They use essential oils and natural herbs. They go picking them out in the fields, and Dead Sea mud. But the special story behind, besides the fragrance and the beauty, is the story. Shlomo Keshet has a son, El Natan, with Down syndrome. And when El Natan grew up, he asked himself, What is El-Natan going to do with his life? So he established this factory for El-Natan and his friends to work. Most of the workers there are special needs. They get up in the morning, they have purpose in their life, a great place to come and work. And when you walk in, besides the fragrance, you see the beautiful smiles of these young adults. And purchasing the soaps and visiting the factory, you're giving back to the community, and it's really a unique experience.
What an incredible mission statement, to hold
It's
and
really,
to promote that
it's unbelievable. And you can come with families, and they have workshops, and it's one of the best places to come visit in Israel.
All right, well, Eliana, again, these are two of the most gorgeous places that I cannot wait to visit. I mean, these images that we're seeing on screen are beautiful. Thank you so much for telling us all about them.
Thank you for having me.
See you next week.
Okay.
Right. Moving on, it's pretty common for hikers in Israel to find something historic in the dirt, but one recent find is now bringing closure to the family of a fallen Israeli Air Force pilot, and ILTV's Nittany Manson reports.
What started as a normal, relaxing Monday hike is now leaving members of the Guri family in Israel with a flood of emotions. Because while walking through the southern desert region of Nahal Faran, the hiker stumbled upon a helmet of IDF fighter pilot Major Daniel Guri. Guri died in a crash during a training exercise in 1984 at only 32 years old, and he was survived by his wife and then unborn daughter. But while his body has since been recovered, his helmet was not. Now, of course, it's been 36 years since Guri's death, so at first, the hiker here did not know what he had found. And upon his discovery, the first instinct was to post this amazing coincidence to social media. It was only later on the car ride home that the hiker realized the significance of the find. But the good news, though, is that his post was enough to get the attention of Israeli Air Force teams, who then did not only contact the hiker, but retraced his steps and recovered the helmet.
סיימנו עכשיו 3 שעות של סריקה קרקעית, רגלית. חיפשנו את הקסדה של גורי, זיכרונו לברכה. היה ברור לנו שהחזרת הקסדה למשפחתו של גורי, בראש ובראשונה לאלמנתו אופירה ולביתו שלא זכתה להכיר אותו דנה, שזו משימה ראשונה במעלה ושאנחנו מתכוונים לעשות את זה.
Well, the helmet has since been recovered, and daughter Dana says that she can't find the words to describe the sense of shock, adding that, quote, "I'm writing this and tears are choking my throat. I have no air."
All right, now it looks like Israel's southern vacation city has just found its match. Eilat and Nice in southern France are now partnering up to turn themselves into smart cities, and the future is already here. So hopefully we'll be witness to it when we go on vacation to both of these new places. Now, both Eilat and Nice have large tourism industries. The two municipalities are launching a 2-year initiative to solve common municipal problems using smart technology-based solutions. And they're going to be taking on challenges in the fields of infrastructure, health, transportation, and energy. But it's all part of an initiative run by the Eilat Tech Center, which is on a mission to turn Eilat into a travel tech hub and the center of innovation in southern Israel. Just 2.5 years ago, there were no startups in Eilat at all, whereas now the city has at least 30. And now, as you know, or maybe you know, the fashion industry has become a somewhat unlikely yet massive contributor to harmful waste in the environment. So in light of this fact, many designers around the world are looking for creative solutions like upcycling. And here to tell us more is Victoria Canal, the co-founder of Refresh. Thank you so much for coming back in today. I'm so excited to hear about what you have to show us.
Glad to be back.
So first of all, what is upcycling? Tell us about that.
Well, upcycling tackles, as you said, this big problem of overconsumption, overproduction. Think about that. About half of items that are produced are not being sold, and there's just no creative and no ideas what to do with them. Only 1% of the unsold are recycled, actually. So we're talking about tons and tons and tons. It's actually about 70 billion items that no one knows what to do with.
Well, and a lot of those, I'm sure some of that includes not just what doesn't sell, but what does sell, but is only worn a few times and is maybe handed down or thrown away.
Right. And now what happens with those items that are not so shiny and new anymore? They need a solution. If we want to look at it in a sustainable and circular way, then we need to look, okay, what can we do? How can we give them a better life?
So, okay, so what are some of the new products that are being generated? Maybe some of the Israeli designers who are behind them.
Yeah.
Let's get into that.
So if it's so if you can't recycle it, you can actually find a way to upcycle. What's upcycle is when you take something that maybe has some kind of a little rid or something like that, that you can't sell it in the same way, but you can give it a new life. Look at what I'm wearing. This is actually something, this nice, beautiful, amazing jacket used to be a few pieces, a few items that maybe didn't work anymore as a singular item. So we have designers who say, okay, let's bring it all together. The beautiful thing about it is that you can actually maybe buy it back because it could be pieces that you, in a way, feel connected to, and they can just get a new, better quality life.
And
let's look at this.
What about this bag?
This is bubble wrap, something that we all know about. So another designer, graduated from the Shankar College in Tel Aviv area, she looked at this and she said, this is something that is waste that's everywhere. She developed a way to create a fabric out of it. Feel free to touch.
Wow.
And of course, because
it's like tough too. This is not like a flimsy
I was just
material
about
or
to
anything.
say, this is what's so great about it, because we all know the advantages of plastic is that you can really, you can use it, they rain anything that's sustainable to so many challenges. And this is a beautiful, fashionable item.
All right, so my final question, because unfortunately we're running out of time.
Yeah.
What is Refresh doing to join in on this upcycling fight?
So we're looking at all these designers that have come up with these amazing ideas, and we say, okay, let's go to big companies and look at their dead stock, look at all of those sort of trash and make cash out of it, make amazing, beautiful business ideas that you and I can benefit from.
All right, so check out Refresh, check out some of these Israeli designers and the amazing upcycled products that they're making. This is gorgeous, and it's a nice sturdy bag.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for being here.
And now we have some more updates in the world of entertainment for you. A new comedic reality show has just hit the Israeli screens, and you might just recognize one of the hosts. ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is here with all the details.
Hey, Aaron. So the new show called Comedy Star has just aired its first episode this week on Channel 13. And while there was a lot of hype around the new reality show, some are saying it's not what they expected. Now, the show is considered to be a stand-up comedy competition show, but barely has any live performances, having the candidates compete with one another through pre-made comedic videos, and which basically removes the live factor from the show.
It also kind of, I don't know, at least from the viewer perspective, it removes a lot of the competition.
I know.
But, all right, so, I wouldn't know what the contestants can withstand the pressures of a live performance. Like, how do you know what's going on?
Right, I mean, the whole point of these types of competition shows is the live factor. I think the show is looking a bit for more of a Generation Z perspective, especially with their casting choices. The show's judges are mostly male comedians, which was very upsetting to women stand-up comics in Israel. However, they do have one woman on the panel, and you'll never guess who it is.
Is it at least a comedian that we know?
It's actually not a comedian. It's the Instagram model turned international name Neta Al-Khamistel. She's literally one of the most talked about women in Israel, but no, she has no comedy background.
So I'm confused because, does she have any background in comedy? I mean, you're saying she's not a comedian.
No.
Any comedy at all.
Which is why so many famous Israeli women comedians were taken back by it and honestly really offended. Think about it. She's obviously a very well-known name, and so it does bring a lot of attention to it, but she doesn't have any comedic background to be judging these stand-up comedians.
Yeah, I mean, I get the decision in hiring Al-Khamistel. She brings a next-level promotion to the show, her social media following, with her presence, but yeah, to not have a single female comedian as a judge on the show where there are many, many other choices who could have been that judge.
Definitely.
It's a little outrageous.
Yes, a lot of people maybe wouldn't have even heard of the show if it wasn't for her face attached to it.
Sure.
However, there hasn't been such good feedback to the show itself. It's been said to have been a little bit slow and not really that funny.
Well, it's missing comedy.
Yes, the women comedians.
It's missing female comedians.
Definitely, definitely.
All right, well, I'll definitely have to be checking it out and to see for myself, as I hope everybody else does. Don't take our word alone for it.
Of course.
And maybe it'll get better with time. You never know. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
All right, now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight, try to stay dry because it'll be rainy and cool again with lows around 52 or 11 degrees Celsius. And then tomorrow you can expect things to clear up a bit with partly cloudy skies and some scattered showers. And the high is predicted to be about 61 or 16 degrees Celsius. And now, of course, before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel on tubing. God. This is apparently singles life in Tel Aviv. Oh, dating. Anyway, all right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.42 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Aaron Porras, and thank you so much for watching.